What's up, guys? My name's Dean, or as most of you know me, Twisty. And let's get into AFL Round 17. Let's wrap it up. Let's first take a look at the ladder. So 16 games played from everyone after 17 rounds because of those bye rounds, of course. The Hawks on top, a game clear of Adelaide and the Bulldogs, who are a game clear of the Giants, the Swans, the Eagles, Geelong, and then they are a game clear of North Melbourne, who are 2 games clear of everyone outside that top 8 in Port Adelaide, St Kilda, and then so on and so on down the bottom there. So West Coast, big missed opportunity to push into the top 4, lost a bit of percentage against Carlton late, and we'll get into all of that in a moment. First thing we're going to take a look at is Sydney and Hawthorn. So 5-point winners are Hawks, clutch players, Burgoyne and Rioli giving the Hawks the win in that final quarter. I thought Burgoyne was probably the best person on the ground, even though Sammy Mitchell had 37 disposals. Rioli with the match-winning goal as well late was very, very impressive. And for the Swans, Rowan was good, kicked 4. Papley was pretty good as well. Put them 7 points up, I think, at one stage. Deep in that last quarter, Parker was probably their best player as well, and Kennedy was also very, very good in that hard-fought match. So the Hawks, once again, they get the job done in a close match. Sydney, once again, they fail to get the job done in a close match. So that's now their 3rd loss this season that has been in a very winning position very late in a game. So we go back to round 8 against Richmond. The Sam Lloyd after the siren goal, put them a point down in that match, so they lost that one. Then they had a lead against the Dogs a couple of weeks ago in Sydney. Then Bontempelli to Johannesson ends up with another loss with 2 seconds to go. And now with the Hawks, Cyril kicking a goal with just over a minute remaining in a winning position there for the Swans. So it's a very tight season, and they would have had top spot pretty much wrapped up at this stage had they won those 3 games, the Sydney Swans. But it was just not to be. And Hawthorn, they're in top spot because they are cool, calm and collected in these tight contests. Now on to Friday night, the Dockers almost upset Geelong. It was a pretty close game the entire night. Dangerfield was clearly the best man though, kicked 4 goals and had 31 disposals. Pavlich didn't quite take his chances in front of goal, kicked the 1 goal too. And had a couple of disposals as well there. But Stephen Hill was probably the Dockers' best player, got a lot of the footy and used it well to get a lot of inside 50s for them. So, once again, Fremantle, they've shown that they can improve, and Geelong have shown that they aren't that great at putting teams to the sword that they should. So, Geelong definitely need to improve before the final series, and I think that they will play better football once it gets to those crunch time big finals, because they're still got a very good record against sides inside that top 8, but it's just when they're playing a lower team, they just drop off a little bit. So we'll wait and see how they go, the Cats, but another 4 points banked, and that's all you'll need at this stage of the season, and then maybe a little bit of percentage later on in the year. Let's go to Saturday now. This is probably close to, it was Saturday's game of the day, I think. 19-point winners for Richmond at the MCG. 16-6 to 11-17. So accuracy, once again, costing the Bombers. 28 scoring shots to 22. They should have really been much closer or even in front late in this game. But they never quite hit the lead after the first term. Were sort of chasing tail all day, and it was sort of a 2 to 3 goal buffer most of the day, and then late in the game, Richmond broke it open once the scores were basically level with about 5 minutes to go. So Dustin Martin, another 3 Brownlow votes banked, you would think, although Mark McClure doesn't seem to think so. Griffiths was probably the second best on the ground, as well as Cochin. They were very good. But Zach Merritt might get a vote in as well. He was pretty good as well. But Griffiths, once again, it's finally, he needs to do this week in, week out, or at least have, close to games to this. I mean, the conditions were perfect for him. It was a nice sunny day. Great for tall forwards or great for tall players. And Griffiths, he clunked a lot of marks, had about 12 marks, which is something he needs to do on a more consistent basis. I think a couple of weeks ago, him and Vickery only had 2 marks between them, and they were both to tie. So, going to be an interesting one come end of the season as to who gets that spot and who will keep that spot and who will maintain their consistency. That gets come on, like they just need to play like consistent. That's all that needs to happen. Now let's go to the twilight game. Port Adelaide thumped North Melbourne by 28 points. It wasn't really a thumping in the end, but North really missed a lot of chances early on. I think they were 4 goals 12 or 5 goals 17. Then they kicked the last 5 goals straight at the end of that match. But for some reason, the Fox 40 commentators thought they were going to win with about 8 minutes to go, and it was still 40 points. So I thought that's quite bizarre. Anyway, Westhoff was really good in that first half, but Robbie Gray, once again, just the outstanding player for Port Adelaide. And the problem for North Melbourne here, Boomer Harvey was probably their best player, and they look to be the team furthest away from a premiership, because if their current team isn't good enough to win a flag, then you lose all those old, experienced heads, which were supposedly meant to be the ones that would give them this premiership, this new premiership. They would then drop off dramatically, because I haven't seen a lot of kids being played, and, you know, it has been, you know, all in or bust for North Melbourne this year, and I think, sadly, they are going to bust. But let's look at the Coleman medal race now. Kennedy hit the front, kicking the 2 goals this week to Buddy's zip. Lynch kicked 3 or 4 this week as well to jump him back up there, so it's still a fairly tight one. I think it'll be 80 goals to win this year, or even less, maybe a 76 will get you the job done in this one. But you'd like to average 4 goals for the last couple of games of the season. But no one's kicking 100 goals this season just yet. Let's keep going now with the Dogs and the Gold Coast Suns. This was the Saturday night game, or the first of the Saturday night games. This was up at Kazali Stadium. The Dogs, big winners. I think it's 48 points in the end there. Their win was. And Clay Smith, 3 goals 4. Wallace, 3 goals 1. Picking it 2-2. Lynch kicked 3 for the Gold Coast Suns. Could have been alright there as well from him. He's a very good player, Tom Lynch. If you haven't seen him live, or you don't really watch much Gold Coast football, he actually is a very, very extraordinary player. And it was really good to watch him play a couple of weeks ago against Richmond. So I like the way he plays. He will be a very big star of the future. He's a star of the now as well. So he's getting everything right that he needs to do. Kobe Stevens had the 34 touches for the Dogs, and the Bont was up there as well with 29, as well as Boyd. I think Hunter had 29 as well. Someone else had 29. And Aaron Hall, he had 29 disposals for the Gold Coast Suns, but he needs to be a little bit more consistent with his disposal over the period of time. The Dogs got the 4 points. They got the job done, which is all they needed to do at this stage. Let's keep going. The Adelaide Crows beat the Magpies, almost killing their finals chances. Not quite dead yet for Collingwood. They just need to win every game for the season, and North Melbourne need to lose almost every game for the season. So if they beat North Melbourne next week, they're right in the race once again. But it's still going to be a very difficult miracle run back. Now the Crows, they get the 4 points, and they get a little percentage boost, a 2-3 percentage boost to push them up there over the top of the Dogs. Sloan, Crouch, and Henderson all very good as well for the Crows, and they just keep doing what they need to do. That's 8 in a row. That's great, mate. I mean, how good was that? 8. I don't even know what I'm talking about. But Adelaide, once again, they got the job done at home, beating the teams they need to do, and they'll just do that for the rest of the season. Just got to keep winning. That's how it goes. Now, this is the one tip that I messed up this week. I actually got 8, and the next game here, Carlton and the Eagles. I said Carlton could win this game. I picked them. I backed them in. Everyone thought I was a joke in the comment section for picking them, and they only lost the game by 7 points in the end. Stormed home, kicked the last 4 goals of the game, and Cripps missed a couple of shots in that last quarter as well. So they had their chance, Carlton, to actually win this one, and I almost looked like a genius. I picked Hawthorn, Port Adelaide, Carlton, and St Kilda this week, and they were the 4 outsiders that almost got home, or that did get home, except for Carlton. So yeah, West Coast once again proving they cannot play at the MCG, and Carlton aren't a great MCG side themselves. They've been much better at Etihad this year. So just to see how bad they just fall apart, West Coast, the MCG is a real worry for them come finals. And the problem for them is they didn't really get too many good play goals. It was a lot of poor defense and losing men over the back. I think in that third quarter they kicked 3 or 4 goals over the back. So that was a real issue there for Carlton. in that game, and that's going to be a problem for West Coast if that's how they're getting their goals. It's going to make it really tough for them in finals, because that's not how you get goals in finals too much of the time. So I think that they will struggle in that final series, home final or not. Now let's move on to Sunday afternoon. St Kilda defeated Melbourne 15-20, 110 to 11-8, 74. Big win in the end. They trailed at quarter time and kicked 5 goals to zip in the second quarter to pretty much set up the game. Membry was outstanding, probably the best man on the ground, kicked 4 goals, looked very dangerous anytime he got near the ball. Montagna had 26 disposals as well. He was also very good. And Jack Stephen, he just continues to impress week in, week out. And Mev Weller, he's extraordinarily good high half forward or goal kicking midfielder, whatever you'd like to call him. I think he's probably a goal kicking mid. I don't think he's too planted in that forward line. He's pretty much like a winger that can push forward, and that's what he does, and he's very damaging, kicking 3 goals there as well. So the Demons, once again, they can't beat St Kilda. This is now 13 losses in a row to St Kilda since the 2006 elimination final, I believe. Anyway, so crazy times for them. And the final game of the round this week was Brisbane and the Greater Western Sydney Giants, who thumped the Lions to the tune of 80 or 79 points in the end. So Brisbane ended up winning that last quarter by a couple of kicks, I think, or maybe the Giants won it by 5 points. I don't know, but it was pretty inaccurate last quarter there. Brisbane, after a week of scrutiny, Rockcliffe kicked 2 goals and had 34 touches. Tried his heart out pretty good. Cal Ward was close to the best man on the ground. I think he might have been the best man on the ground. He had 3 goals and 31 disposals. He was just ridiculously good on the weekend, as was Shield, Canelio. Kelly was pretty good as well. Cameron, Patton, they were just a unit on the weekend, the Giants. So I think that they will respond. And they got a big spray at 3-quarter time. They're up by 80 points at 3-quarter time. They copped a huge spray from Leon Cameron. So expect them to try their guts out come the final series, especially if they make that top 4. Now, once again, we're going to take a look at the top 8 v top 8. Geelong sitting on top there, 6 wins, 2 losses. Your Hawks in second, 5-3. Sydney 5-4. The Giants 4-3. Kind of got Sydney and GWS mixed up there. And then you've got Adelaide 4-4, and North Melbourne and West Coast 2-5 and 1-5. And North Melbourne still have 4 top 8 sides to come. So they're going to need to win a couple of those games to get themselves in it. But that's it for the wrap-up this week. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a big thumbs up. I got 8 this week. Bloody Carlton. I almost got Carlton. And then I would have looked like an absolute genius. So thank you so much for watching anyway. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.